We are going to dive right into this. There is clearly an energy trying to block this. And just an update for those of you who caught the last video where we had something in here that was being a little grump and bothering Julia. She is doing great. She ate perfectly well today, so she is healthy. And the old energy is out, and now we've got one in here that seems to want to convince us that, well, it's okay, somebody else will say it, somebody else will do it. There's something, we have indie right here, indecision, totally there. It's kind of like, okay, I know there's, you know, and we have over here, Arvel the parrot, right? You know, like, speaking, the communication, some kind of communication needs to take place. And yes, Julie's going to shake the cards on us. You shake the cards up. We are going to shake up the cards. We are going to shake up this energy is what we are going to do. So that we can get out of this indecision and get to this communication. Because this is a very important thing. And why is it so important? Well, the other card that I pulled out in the pre-shuffle before this reading is the Singers of Initiation. This is what I got was like, basically think of it as a bridge, but there is a temporary bridge. And everything's going to change around you. But which side of that change do you want to be on? I'll leave that to your interpretation. What we're going to do, and to really get a clarification of this, we are going to check for what each element is leaving. We'll be doing that with the Tarot of the She. So you can check the timestamps, they'll all be there, but just know what we're talking about, what you're leaving and what you're heading to. If you cross this temporary bridge that's available, and I can hear you saying, you know, oh, what's meant for us will like never pass us by. This is not necessarily a meant for you thing. This is a meant for you to do for the highest good of all, not just yourself. And there is an opportunity in this time for you to get over the fears and the thinking, well, maybe someone else will say it. Maybe someone else can take care of it. Maybe I don't have to be someone who stands up or speaks up or takes charge or creates what needs to be created, helps where needs to be helped. Okay, so this is not one of those opportunities that, you know, meant for you. It'll always come back and, you know, it's in the cards. It's predestined. This is a choice you have to make. And it is going to involve communication, not just talking, speaking, but it's going to be listening. It's going to also have what we had at the bottom of the deck. This is the Faeries Oracle, by the way, which is Shia the Craw, which is the receptive energy. This is the energy that comes through when unity splits into male and female representations on this planet. So this is the nurturing, the listening, the understanding, the being able to find the balance. And also with Avril here, does talk about communication is needed to find middle ground. So these are very important things. And the thing is, are you going to be indecisive and not be a part of doing something positive for the good of all, hoping someone else will do it? Or are you going to do it? It's up to you. This is an up to you thing. I don't really give you predictions. I give you possibilities and empowerment. And I feel that anytime I give a prediction, I have to be very careful, because by predicting something, I am in an essence taking away your power to believe that you have control over an outcome, that you have free will of how you move forward in this world. Now, some things we all know are set in stone. people have gotten the premonitions. I've gotten them. You've probably gotten them. But for me to predict in a general reading what's going to happen for you, and for you to rely on me to tell you what's going to happen rather than you going out to make it happen, is a dangerous thing for me to be doing in this time. Those are words I have never said, but it is for me to tell you what's going to happen. I will repeat this because that's what I'm being told to do. For me to tell you what's going to happen and let you think, oh, that'll happen, instead of allowing you to go out and make happen something that needs to happen, takes away a power. And this energy that's been in here that we're shoving out so we can get into this, so we can get going and moving on what needs to be done, that's what it wants. It wants you to sit there and just watch the predictions. So that it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to do anything. It's, you know, I'm going to get this great job offer in a month. So, you know, the resumes I have out are good enough. And if you have been listening to me lately in the political, oh, everything's going to be okay because, you know, other people are going to speak up and, you know, other people are, you know, going to handle it through the court system. I don't have to be open and honest and vulnerable and, you know, not know if somebody's going to get mad at me because I have an opinion about something that I don't feel is fair and just for those around me, and I'm just going to sit back and be quiet. So for me to predict in this particular type of speaking, in this particular reading, if I were to predict, then I'm removing your power for you to be enabled and emboldened and empowered to take the steps that your intuition and your guides are telling you to take to have an effect on the outcome of what can be the good for all, the highest good for all. All right. You also know that anytime I work with the fairies, this is the Tarot of the She. This is the Brian Froud's Fairy Oracle here. Fairies don't beat around the bush. They will either do one of two things. They will give you riddles so that you don't understand anything, or they will be blunt as hell and pretty witchy with a B instead of a W. Okay? And understand anything that comes through in this is something that I have to listen to also. I spent the whole day going, you know, I know there's a reading that needs to come through, but I really feel like this other reader that I watch, I think that person's going to pick up the reading, so I'll just let that person put the reading out tonight. Caught the reading and realized that the reading was like, we need to go out and do our own thing, and it was, you know, how I interpreted the reading was very interesting, and everything that wanted to interfere with me just sitting down to be able to be here to do this for you for this reading. And that's the energy we're dealing with here. So with all of that said, we're going to do two things with the tarot. We're going to do it by the elements, so air signs, earth signs, whatever order I'll do them. There'll be timestamps at the bottom in the comments. We're going to take a look for the Fool card and see what you would be stepping away from, or what you can step away from that will help you make this journey across the bridge to take action, and what you can expect on the other side of that will be of assistance to you. Not the actual results of your action, but the energies that are holding you back on one side of the bridge, the energies that will help you on the other. That we will be looking for from the She. I also have the Transient Light Tarot here, and this is a non-binary deck. We will be looking at this. This is a very, very strong shadow work moon deck. We will be looking at what's under the moon. Some things you might want to look at within and figure out how that might be part of the energy that's in the position of lulling you possibly into thinking you don't have to make a decision. Because remember, even a non-decision is a decision. All right, so we'll head into the timestamps and I'll catch you in your sign, in your element. Okay, for the air signs, I have pulled out your cards. We have the Fool here. This is a very interesting Fool card. It's actually a bit of a scarecrow. Fitting for the energy that seems to be trying to scare us from this bold step across this bridge and to take these actions, to speak these words. And a lot of these are to speak words, but they're also in deeds. So now what we do have behind that Fool card is the World, which really makes it understandable. The fear of taking this step is leaving the world you know behind. And the thing is, the world we know, it's changing. And we're all going to have it left behind us. But without stepping out, we don't get to dictate or create what we want in the world that we're stepping into. An energy that can be used or recognized, at least, if you want to cross that bridge and step out, claim your power. We have the Dreamer Queen. And the key word here with that is the gift of reason. So this is the Queen of Swords, clearly. And what I'm getting in this is what can help you cross the bridge to get out of indecision and to move into action is to use your own sense of reason, your own judgment, your own ability to not take what is spoken around you on face value as truth, to dive into your own memory, your own experience, what you know of what you've seen in the past, and an awareness of examining what may be really beneath the surface of what is spoken today. Those are things that can help you with this. All right, that's for the air signs. Now we're going to look at the moon just to see what might be lurking around back there that you might want to take a look. This is kind of going to be like in the emotional space and in the fear space, probably. So we have the moon in the middle. I'll show you the moon card. Just give you a moment with that. So we're going to take a look. Right now it almost looks like a person, and they're kind of looking off to the side, going, or this way. You can almost see it's you can look this way, see a person looking this way, you can see a person looking that way, depending on how you look at the curve. I don't know, that's just something to be pointed out in the card. Okay, we gotta put this back correctly so I know. Behind the moon, we have the Four of Vessels, which is the Four of Cups. And in this deck particularly, there is a fear and an understanding that there is something, like, look at the flowers up top. You're the watering can, and they're up there on the wall, and they need the water. And you know it. Are you going to just let them rot and die, the plants? Because you're too afraid what's on the other side of that wall, that you might see something over there? That's a question to ask yourself. Okay. On the other side of the moon, as you step forward, some of what you might feel. Nine of Swords. Might be scary over there, right? Might be hard to sleep. But is it going to really be easier to sleep at night if you know you're in the care of those plants and you don't get up there and water them and help them? Because you're afraid of what's on the other side of the wall? And yeah, what's on the other side of the wall with these cards is probably saying, yeah, you're going to have a period of being afraid of what's over there. You might rightly be afraid. But use your intuition to decide whether or not it is a wise thing to do. I mean, obviously never put yourself in a state of danger, but that's something to be mindful of. Places to look within yourself when navigating this energy of the indecision, to get you out of this space here. All right. All right, for the earth signs, here's your Fool card. In this deck, it's a bit different. Scarecrow card, fitting for this reading, right? We're going to take a look first at what is behind the Fool. We do have the Wheel of Fortune. This is pretty similar for what came out in the air signs, because they had the Wheel of Fortune. I mean, they had the World card. Sorry. Alrighty. They had the World card. Like the world was just changing. The Wheel of Fortune is changing. You're aware that the Wheel of Fortune is changing. Not just necessarily for you, but for those around you. And this may be in places near or far from you. And you're noticing some issues on the fortune part. And who has it, who doesn't. How people are being able to survive. I'm sorry. It's the Wheel of Fortune card with a giant X up here. Okay. I can't help it. I'm sorry. Yeah. So some of you may be thinking about how the fortune is just going to a few, and we've, formally Twitter up here. So that may be some of what you guys are witnessing and wondering what you can do about that. We're going to take a look on the, if you took action, some things to consider with that action. What would be the feelings, the observations, the insights for that? And we have Warrior 7, which is the 7 of Wands. And this is, its keyword in this deck is a hero's challenge. And this is just, the 7 of Wands is really protecting the value of the individual. And that may give you some insights into what are your steps? What are those things that you can do when it feels like everything might be controlled by just a couple of people with a lot of money and power? What is that? The hero's challenge is to figure out what you can do. And in this, it seems with the 7 of Wands, which is the Warrior 7 here, is really, the things that are coming to mind are not only, your own family, your own friends, and looking out for each other, but this is also supporting those who are local. See if you feel like there's an opening, because a lot of this energy is not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do. So for the earth signs, some of this, and it's fitting for an earth sign, obviously, it may mean, you're going to buy a little less on a giant online shopping thing that's really convenient and ships next day, and if you have the right membership, and instead you're actually gonna find a local mom and pop store and you're going to shop there. You're going to choose where your finances, you can choose where you let your finances go in the sense of who you shop from? Who do you give to charity-wise if you do that? I'm hearing the word boycott, which we don't hear many times. It kind of dates me. If you know, I'm in the 50s. I got some gray hair. I really do have some gray hair here. Like, just here you go, babes. There you go. This is it. All you gray hairs out there, here it is. And yeah, so I'm an old bitchy Gen Xer. You know, come on. Let's face it. We used to boycott shit. You know what? If we didn't like what your company was doing, we didn't buy shit from you. I get a little bit real on that one. And it's something I don't even hear a lot of anymore. But that is something to do. Is like, you know, is that something to explore for where your choices are, where you feel like you can do something? Where you spend your money is a form of voice, is a form of communicating what you think and believe in. All right, I'll leave that one there. I kind of think, you know, it'd be fun to go and look at what all of the signs, because it feels like I'm not particularly reading for the signs like, you know, Taurus or anything like for this, but this is a very earth energy kind of way. The air one was very air related. So we'll see how we still have the cups, water sign, and the fire signs. But so far, the air sign was really air related information. And the earth was very earth, monetary, pentacles kind of stuff. Let's see what comes out here. Okay, so here we go. This is the moon card. I pointed it out in the other one. At first, I almost feel like this is like a Charlie Brown looking thing. Like he's, you know, from the cartoons, it's like he's either looking up or, wait a second, it could be a person and this is their face looking this way. There's something in that. I'm just pointing it out. A lot of times I don't have the full information for you because you're meant to find it on your own. And my guides really like to do that in my readings, is just give me, I will actually sometimes just give you a card and say, my guides are saying you're supposed to look at this and listen to your own intuition. But this is just take a look at that moon card. It kind of fits the moment that we're in. So I got to slide this back in so I know exactly where the one behind it was. So now what's behind it is very interesting. The Defender. This is the King card in this deck. I'm sorry, I gotta do it. Come on, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I gotta pull this card back out. What was in the behind of the Fool? The Wheel of Fortune and I know everybody's like either you're like really into this or you have totally clicked off or probably hit the dislike button at this point. I mean, please don't do that, but I'm waiting for that button to get clicked a lot in one of these readings because I'm not holding back. The messages that I'm being given to give, I'm not holding back. I'm, you know, trying to do them delicately. But that was what's behind the Fool card. What we have behind the Moon in the emotional sense is a feeling like, well, there's a king that controls everything. What can I do? You know, so that's a place to examine in yourself. Do you have that feeling? What around you are you hearing and listening to and letting yourself take as spoken on face value that this is the way it is and everything? And are you believing into that to the point that you feel like you don't have any power? It's all centralized to someone else. What could I do? I don't have any, I mean, somebody else is in charge of everything. I don't have any power to do anything. Like, if you help one person, you've done something, and that's power. Just because there are people on the planet who can screw up billions of people's lives by like signing an executive order or something stupid like that doesn't mean you don't have power. You still have power. And how you treat others and what you do and what we talked about, like where you choose to support people with wealth, or whether it's the neighborhood family that has a restaurant that, you know what, you're going to go shop there or go to the craft fair. But be mindful of a lot of craft fairs are just people selling cheap stuff from China. Make sure people are actually making their crafts when you go to craft shows. So this again, my age, okay, my family has had a craft business since 1990. All right, so we've seen the craft shows for a long time. Go ahead and go to the crafts fair. Make sure it's something, ask them how they made it. You know, make sure it's not just somebody selling something from China. Make sure you know that they made it. Do a little research in the products you buy. See who's making them. See if they're giving back to any charities. That's power. If enough of us do something, it gets a lot more powerful. But if you sit back and expect other people to do it and you don't participate, you don't make your choices, then yeah, this king has total power over you when you're sitting there going, I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do. The king has all the power. Okay, well, that card just flew away. Let's move on. Apparently, that is not an energy we want to stay in. I barely even tapped that card and my fingers were holding it pretty tight too. So on the other side of the moon, shall you choose to embrace your power? What some things are to look for. This is the weirdest reading I have ever done. I've never done anything like this, but my guides are just sending me into strange places. And you know what? Maybe that's part of the reading and the energy is we're all figuring out that we got to go to new strange places and do things in ways we've never done them before. And it's scary to step up and do it. Because trust me, this reading, I was afraid to do it. I felt like I couldn't do it. I wasn't skilled enough. I didn't know how to do this. This isn't a reading I've ever done before this way. I felt like I couldn't. And I'd mess it up. And maybe I am messing it up. Who knows? Let's see. What card came out here for you? We got the Apprentice of Vessels. And this is the Page of Cups. And I really didn't realize we had the like handcrafted card sitting here. After I went on the tyrant about like, you know, making sure that the handmade stuff at a craft show is really made by hand from the people who live in your community. But you know, you can craft, and maybe there's ways artistically you can do things. Maybe there's a really, like, what I keep getting is, who do you want to support? And it really sounds like a big corporation or someone who's really working with their hands and putting their heart into what they do. It may not even seem like you're making a statement or a difference by where you shop and who you shop from and doing a little learning about the people that you're buying from, instead of just trying to find the cheapest thing and get as many things as you can. Getting something that may have cost a little more because it was made by hand and with love by someone locally is a much bigger treasure to have. So those are some things to contemplate. They may or may not be the actions you need to take, but something in the earth signs, that's playing a role there. How we spend our finances is a way to raise your voice. All right, we're looking into the cups or the water now. So far, these have come out based on the elements and not the corresponding signs necessarily. they're loosely close to the signs, but they're very much the different elements playing out. And if you haven't caught any of the others, this is the Fool card in this deck, which is a very different one. And it's that scarecrow, I keep thinking it's a scarecrow, but in a sense, it's almost like a running out of the field is what I'm being told here. It's not a scaring away. So read into that card however you feel. So we're going to take a look at first is the card that was behind the Fool. And with that, we have Dreamer 6, which is the insight on that is Insight's Voyage. This is the Six of Swords card. And surprisingly with this deck, which is the Tarot of the She, it doesn't give necessarily the calmer waters impression that one would get from the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, especially with this intention of Insight's Voyage. This is really trusting that you have a lot of insight. This new journey, should you choose to accept your assignment to go on, behind it, and the reason probably why you're at this precipice of being able to make this is because you do have insights. And the thing is, there may be a need to feel like you know there's more insights out there. For those of you who are really connected with your guides and getting a lot of, people call them downloads. I'm not particularly fond of the term. Messages, deliveries of information, however you want to word it. You may be becoming like uncomfortable with it or not happy with what you've been getting. And it's a matter of trying to maybe put all those pieces together. And I've just heard you're not going to have all the pieces until you make the journey. Until you accept stepping out as the Fool. You can't have every single piece of information beforehand. And that's a bit frightening. There's an element of the unknown. But you have enough insight as to decide what steps to take and then gradually learn more along the way. So that's the fear in the background, is that you don't have the information, probably playing a role behind stepping into this new path. Now what came out in front of the Fool, which would be things to consider that might be coming in on the other side. Temperance coming out here, it could seem like, oh, this is predictive. There'll be healing once I go take this journey. Okay, the healing's going to take work. It's not like a magical thing that will happen, but emotionally, you can probably find a space where you go, if I stay in this place where I am, I'm never going to be emotionally comfortable. I mean, I'm going to get these insights and it's going to tie me up in knots inside because I'm not doing something. That's what we were looking at here with the Six of Swords. If you're not doing something with what you're receiving information-wise and taking some course, direction, stepping forward, some action, then you're not going to have a healing within. But a part of this also is to let you know on this journey, part of the Fool's path is to find ways to create spaces of healing, of balance, of equality. I could say a whole bunch of other things. Temperance is going to take work. It's not going to be given just for the taking the step, but taking the step means you're going into a place where you will have the ability to navigate a way to find how you can bring others around you into balance for the highest good of all. Okay? And remember that the highest good of all, those insights you've been getting from Spirit, the ones that are fair, the ones that unite in kindness, those are the steps on the other side of the Fool's journey for the emotional aspect. We are the deck was quite lively. The other deck here, the Transient Light Tarot, when we came to the Moon card. So we're really, really in the Cups energy and the water energy with this one. I'll show you the Moon card if you haven't seen it in any of the other elements. It's a very interesting Moon card, and for some reason, and I've never seen it this way before, but I'm pointing it out, I almost feel like it's like a little bit of a Charlie Brown cartoon. In a way, you could see like there's like one person looking this way, or you could look at it as here they are and this is the face and they're looking this way. It's like there's two directions you can look, and that's what it is. It's sort of that choice point, and then this would be the body, that the head, and you know. So that's the Moon card in this deck for you just to kind of consider and grasp. Now, what is behind the Moon? The Seven of Vessels, which is the Seven of Cups. It's just a ton of confusion. And unless you do something to try and clear up the confusion, you're just going to stay in confusion. And there may be a lot of information coming in that is confusing. Okay, and I'm going to be sent back to this card. I'm being sent back to this card where we had what was behind the Fool was insights voyage. Words like there's insights that you have, but you can't quite make sense of. And it's also, what I'm getting is there's a lot of having to sort out what is really the divine message. You know, what is the highest good of all message? As I choke up a little bit to not be able to say this. Oh, and then the thought tries to leave. That's interesting. I'm going to go off on a little derailment here. Okay, with these two, the confusion and the insights. Especially since I came across the energy that was trying to say, no, someone else is going to take care of doing that reading. Let them do it. They have a bigger audience. You don't have to do it. There's a certain navigating in this space where one has to determine, is that energy trying to block me from doing the divine's will? Or is that the divine letting me know, oh, I don't have to do that, someone else is taking care of it? So there's a certain amount of having to trust how you feel inside. The divine won't scare you. Well, I want to say the divine won't scare you. The divine will sometimes ask you to go through things that are frightening, but you are well prepared for, and you are safe, and you are not putting yourself in a position where you would be vulnerable or open to harm, you know. You're not going to get a message that says go out and do something that's going to be hazardous to you. You know, obviously that's not a message that I would ever pass along to do for anyone to do anything that would be a harmful thing to them. But there can be fear in carrying out what you're being guided to do. There's a different type of fear, and you may have to work with understanding where in the body the fear is, or if it's up in the head, in the mind, in a confusion trap, or just like a you know, a thought of like I was saying, I was like, I don't have to do a reading today. Somebody else, there's another reader doing it. Like that trickster kind of thing. Oh, well, that sounds great. Oh, that makes it easier, right? Somebody else is going to do it. You got to feel where it is. Kind of get your emotions and say, is the anxiety here? And this thing is trying to tell me, well, then, hey, you don't have to do anything because it's like, you know, you're afraid of doing that. So just let somebody else do it. I hope that gets the gist of it across. We'll move on to what is, if you do take a peek outside and step into this fool's journey, which isn't a foolish thing. It's just, you know, fool's journey. And the fool has all the tools the magician has. Just they're in a new pathway and will have to use the tools in different ways than they're used to. So you still have the power of the magician within the fool. We do have the Crown of Coins. This is the King of Pentacles. And what I don't want to... Oh, okay. I'm just going to word things in whatever unpleasantly non-polite way they come across. The King of Pentacles in this is owning your own crown. Your thoughts have value. Distinguishing your own thoughts, distinguishing your own feelings, owning them as your own, and not allowing what you truly feel on a soul level to be altered, silenced, or confused into thinking it's something else by outside forces, whether that be energetic or just whatever information you're consuming and however you consume information. This is really a take your own power back. And emotionally taking that power back. With the air signs, there was a lot of anxiety there, but this if you checked out the air signs, or the air element as it's playing out in this is something that could very much help alleviate fears. Not only is it going to clear up confusions, but it can alleviate fears. And some of it might just be owning your own fears and not allowing others to project fears at you. Because, I mean, I'm in the United States. Look, everybody's throwing fear everywhere. We're under a state of fear or hate, whichever side you want to be on. But then the people who are hating because they've bought into a certain fear that only a small percentage of them should even be concerned about ever affecting their life. So there's a dominance of fear over people on completely different points of views, on completely different sides of an issue. So owning your own emotional and not allowing rhetoric, content, so forth, to dictate how you're going to feel, especially in the fear department, since we had that. You know, go back and check out the air element. That may be helpful for some of you. But this is definitely, you know, when you're searching inside and wondering, what kind of feelings would I have? How would this play out on my emotional level if I stepped into those fool energies? See how these play in your life. It's not a predictive. All of this is stuff that, you know, anytime when you're going to step out in this fool, you're going to be in charge of what happens over here. You can step out into the fool energy and jump back over here to this confusion. You can step into this owning your emotions, but it takes effort and work on your part. It's not going to magically happen. You do have to put in the effort. When we were talking about temperance on the other side of the car of the future card, if you cross that bridge into the Fool's journey, this wasn't something that was going to be magically given to you. This is something that you're going to create in yourself and within others. Okay, so that's what I have on that. And like I said, these have been coming out in how it affects the element, and you know, whether air in our thoughts and our thinking, the water signs in our emotions. The earth element came out very much in how to financially navigate with this and what some of those things are. So it's probably worth checking out each one to kind of cover all the departments of you. And with that, I'm going to move on to the last element, which is fire. All right, so fire signs, or just examining the fire element, the passionate element, that energy, that willingness to really take what matters most to you and go with it. This is the Fool card if you haven't caught the other elements. To me, it always looks like a scarecrow. Read into it as you wish. I don't always give you information about a card. Sometimes I just sort of get the guidance that you should take the card and find your own intuition on it. Okay, so that is our Fool card, and we're gonna stick that there. Behind the Fool card, as for what if you're not stepping out and taking action into this new journey, the card that came out is Warrior 3, alignment. And with this, with the passion, I think some of you, there is a discomfort because there's things going on that are not in alignment with your true values. There are things, I don't want to, I'm going to say this, understand that I have to take the messages and understand that these are messages I have to hear too. So never be offended by anything I say because, you know, maybe it's not your thing to hear, but Spirit's saying it to me, probably to you, and whoever else may be watching. The difficult thing to say is that by not acting, by not allowing to move on into this new journey, we're smothering our own flame, our own passion. It's suppressing us, what we care most about. And I will say I did pull for the Moon card to see what was going on in the emotions. And we ended up back with the card that the air signs had. And back to their fear. But it's on the different side of the moon for you guys. So you may want to wrap back around and just see how this played out in the elements if you just skip to this. They've all been pretty interesting and very on point for their elements. But it can be also a feeling of like not being wanted, not wanting to be heard, not wanting to be, I mean, I'm saying not that you don't want to be heard or seen or whatever, but the feeling that others have a completely different passion and their torch is so much brighter than yours that you feel like you just sort of have to crawl up in the darkness, and it's like it can eat you alive in there. You can grow cold in that space if you don't keep your passion, your spark, your torch lit. Okay, so that's enough said on that one. Now, having stepped out on the Fool's journey, something to consider finding there is, this is not a predictive. Remember, I don't do predictive. So it's not saying this is what would be, it's the Dreamer 3, soul loss. This is the 3 of Swords in this particular deck, the Tarot, the she, which she is an Irish word for fairy. Not predicting that you will not have a broken heart. This is a healing of a heart. This is the action on the other side of this bridge is a speaking up for those who are brokenhearted. Because right back here, I mean, this might sound great. The Warrior 3, the 3 of Wands. It might sound great, but you're going nowhere. You're just watching from the distance as your flame goes out, your torch goes out. This is here with the 3 of Swords, is getting out of that painful feeling. You know, to be able to go into this Fool energy and this new journey and to figure out, because the Fool has all the tools the Magician has. They're just setting out on a new journey to where they're going to have to use those tools in a new way. And this is going to end that heartbreaking smothering of your flame and your passions. And in the process also is to keep in mind, how can you use your passions as you cross this bridge that may not be there forever for you to be able to cross? You know, the time might be now that you need to cross and start doing these things. But how can your passions help prevent the heartbreak, the suffering, the pain, the grief, the loss of others? I'm going to move to the Moon to get a bit more emotional feel. All right, so we did have, these are the 3 that came out here. I'll show you the Moon card as I've done for each of the elements. It's a very interesting Moon card in here. And this is the first time when I've used this deck I've ever had like this weird feeling of this is a person, and it's almost kind of like a Charlie Brown head, but you know, the cartoon Charlie Brown, and you can see it as maybe this is the face looking this way, or you can see it as this is the face looking up that way. Okay, so there's the choice, you know, there's the choice in this emotional space. All right. Now, what you had behind the Moon, we have the 7 of Wands. This is it. Emotionally, you want to protect your passions. And that's what we just talked about. Like, if you sit there and go, I'm not going to use my passion, my gifts, what matters most to me, what I do best, this keeping it behind the Moon and hidden, it's just gonna be of no use. What you have, if you go take the Fool's route in the Moon element, in the emotional element, is the 4 of Vessels, as they call here, the 4 of Cups. And this is a little bit opposite of the message, is quite an opposite message of how we had this in the first group, which was the air signs, where it came out as behind. This is you choosing what not to allow yourself to feed and nourish, and knowing you need to nourish yourself and nourish what's in your garden. And say, like, I'm not crossing that wall. I'm putting, you know, sometimes we do have to wall out certain things that are trying to suppress our passion. And look, you know, they've already killed off these. The plants have already died here. you have water here. This is such a confusing message because now I'm being told, like, water puts out fire, right? There's something in there. This is the weirdest one to come out yet. There's something up with this. Okay. All right. Y'all can put in the comments if you've got ideas on this one, because this one's a little tricky. This is going to be... Okay. No, it's not tricky when we look at this one. This is like not letting others be hurt and heartbroken, destroyed, grief, loss. This is you, your passion, believe it or not. And some of you might be feeling like rage inside, back over here. You feel like you just want to rage out. And that's not the way the guidance is coming through the card. It's coming through to say, you know, passion can be water, not just fire. That water is needed to help nourish and grow these plants and bring them back to life. It's not a time for this burning, angry fire. It's a time for the water. It's a time for the nourishment. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I feel like that's enough to spark ideas for you. Okay, so thank you for sitting through the reading. That's been an interesting and different little ride of what to do in these changing times. But, you know, a non-decision is a decision.